A new video dropped into the Amberverse a couple of days ago, and I can't stop thinking about it. Beck, a former partner of Amber's, came out and shared some information about their relationship that, on the surface, to me seemed a little bit odd, but the more I've thought about it, the more I think it is so strange, and I can't get it out of my head. So if you haven't watched the video from Beck, obviously go give them the view. I'm going to play a clip of the video, but I think you should always go support the original creator whenever that's possible. So in this clip, Beck talks about the relationship that they had with Amber and the ways that Amber may monopolize their time. So we had heard before that Amber would, for example, set a timer and say that Beck was allowed to spend a certain chunk of time with their friends downstairs or doing whatever it was that they wanted to do. But in this situation, it's a little bit more direct in the way that Amber is controlling their time. We've, of course, seen Amber kind of go through many different small items that she's in possession of. In a recent video, we watched her sort through dozens of perfume bottles, which just on the surface seems like too many perfume bottles for one person to own, but that's not really my business, I suppose. But Beck describes Amber insisting, is maybe the word I could use, that they play a game called Choosey. And I don't know if this is just the ADHD brain in me, but this game sounds like the way to torture me. I literally could not imagine a more exhausting and stressful way to spend my day.
What does Amber Lynn do with all of her time?
This is something that you guys probably already know about her, but it depends on what she's into in the moment. Like, it could be reading and being on her computer for hours upon hours at a time. She would have so many tabs open, and it would just be like YouTube, shopping. She would have her personal journal that she would write in open. I don't know. Sometimes I didn't even know because I didn't even really see a lot of her computer or her phone. She was also on her phone, but I was aware of the many different tabs that she was on, because another thing with Amber was no matter what she was doing or what we were doing, she could only handle it for so long, and then she would have to switch to something else. So if we were watching a movie or a TV show or something, we could only watch so much of it, and then she would pause it and we'd have to do something else for a little while before we come back to it. She also was really into puzzles and Legos and journaling, and one thing that took up a lot of time was this game that she would force me to play called Choosey, where she would take a bunch of like thousands of stickers, like she bought bulk stickers, and had me pick between them all the way down until I picked one single sticker to be the best sticker of all. And she made me do this with buttons and earrings, calendar pages. She would buy a bunch of small calendars and tear the pages out and then have me pick between the pictures down to which one I liked the most. And Croc Charms. She would make me play Choosey between Croc Charms. And she didn't even own a pair of Crocs. She just had thousands of Croc Charms for no reason. And sometimes, because there was so many, like with stickers and earrings, it would take hours and sometimes even days to completely get down to just one.
And as I was listening to it, I was thinking, this sounds like some sort of jigsaw trap, doesn't it? Where someone is insisting that their partner engage in an activity that is like objectively boring, and the only way to exit the activity is to finish in a way that is satisfactory to Amber. And when I first heard it, I thought, this is strange. This is a weird way to spend your time, obviously. But at the same time, like, I do weird stuff sometimes. I can engage in more boring activities. I know of people who like playing with Legos or doing sort of like miniatures or things like that, or even just sorting through their own items. In a way, I can imagine that being soothing, or a way to, or like the tactile experience being enjoyable for someone. Those are all valid. I think the important thing is, though, I could not imagine a scenario in which I forced my wife to help me organize my embroidery floss because I just thought it would be fun to do. And I think that that's the important piece here, is that it's not just that Amber is encouraging or asking their partner to engage with this behavior with them. It's that no isn't an answer. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought back to the ways that I worked with people when I supervised them. So I was a supervisor for many years. And not that this is exactly the same, obviously, but I think one thing that you really want to avoid when you are supervising people is that you don't want to give them really demeaning or menial tasks for extended periods of time, because it will wear them out. I know, as a person who has ADHD, that decision fatigue is a genuine issue. I There will be days that I like cannot make another decision, is what it feels like. So I have to plan out like dinners for the week in advance, or even like small decisions can feel really exhausting, let alone making like big decisions. Like if I needed to make a decision on like buying a mattress or something like that, I feel overwhelmed and exhausted by the variety of decisions that present you for you every day. And I think it feels like in this, Amber is trying to control the attention, the energy that Beck has in any given day, and exhaust them to a point where they're not able to engage with other people, or not able to do things that they actually enjoy. Because I think it's maybe one thing if someone were to say to me, here's a book of stickers, pick out your favorite, right? Like that's a pretty normal thing maybe to do. Like I have a toddler, and like when he got his haircut, the lady at the haircut place was like, here's a box of toys, you can pick a prize from them. And it took him like 30 seconds to pick out like a little car or whatever. Or like when you go to the doctor with a toddler, they give them like a basket of stickers and they can pick out one from them. That is like a normal enough thing to do. It's the process specifically of like going back and forth and picking one item and saying like this one is better or this one is better, based entirely on something subjective that I feel like would tear me apart mentally. Because it requires this like level of like both attention, but it's also like so tedious and monotonous that it it would feel like I was tearing my own skin off. And the reason why I've been thinking about this more is that there is an element of abusive behavior and emotional abuse where one partner will control the time and energy of the other partner in a way that can be detrimental to them. Emotionmatters.co.uk talks about controlling all of your partner's time. While wanting to spend time with your significant other is a normal part of being in a relationship, it becomes toxic when one partner begins to monopolize all the partner's time and expect them not to spend time with other people. So we saw specifically the way that Amber has tried to isolate her partners from their friends, their family, not letting them see family members or spend time with friends when they would like to do that. And I think that this is an element of that, because if Beck, for example, is busy playing this ridiculous Choosey game, there's no way that they can spend time with friends or engage with their family members or respond to a text or something like that. And there's a good chance that once they're done with this horrible game, that they are going to be so emotionally drained and exhausted because they've spent hours picking out buttons and then justifying which one is the best to Amber, that they won't even have the mental capacity or mental space to reach out to family or to spend, have those meaningful connections with friends. In another portion, Beck talks about Amber setting a timer for them to pretend to pick lint off of their back or something for an ASMR reason, and it being an endeavor that was so time consuming that Beck would be physically exhausted from the experience.
And another thing that would take up a lot of time is she would set a timer for 45 minutes to an hour, usually. And she would have me sit behind her and pretend to pick lint off of her back because she liked the way it felt and sounded because of ASMR. And she would have me do this for so long that my arms and stuff would hurt. And whenever I would want to stop, she would sigh and just be like, well, I'm going to pause the timer. So she would pause the timer for my little break, and then I'd have to immediately go back to it, and she would unpause the timer again. Sometimes I would catch her not unpausing the timer because she would want me to do it for longer.
Again, this feels like a way to both exhaust and control the time of Beck. For example, if Beck is so drained and emotionally exhausted from being asked to do this whatever lint picking situation for hours that they are completely emotionally drained and need to continue to like come back to it and finish it, and their like arms are exhausted by the time they're done, that they have no energy to connect with the people around them or to do something that they find enjoyable. Again, just like wearing them down more. I don't think it's my space or really the space of any other commentary channel to say that Amber is abusive to someone, but I will say, as an outside perspective, somebody who's listening to this, a lot of these behaviors feel at the very least problematic. Something that would be exhausting or distressing to Beck in this situation, and ultimately something that wouldn't happen in a healthy relationship or with a person who seemed like they had a secure attachment to their partner. In a vlog that was released just a couple of hours ago, Amber talks about this a little bit, not exactly, I think, but she talks around it. In quite a bit of content, as well as what Amber is going to talk about, Beck talks about zoning out or dissociating or not being mentally present.
In a relationship with them, I didn't notice how mean or rude I could come off until looking back, and I just feel super remorseful. I viewed our whole relationship a certain way that it wasn't. I genuinely thought that they wanted to be on camera and that they were okay with being on camera. And I was so accustomed to them zoning out or seeming like they didn't want to be on camera that like that was normal for me. But I didn't know that the zoning out and the look on their face, etc., was like an indication that they weren't listening to me or that they didn't want to be on camera. Like that is like news to me.
And I have to wonder if doing things that would mentally exhaust someone, such as this horrible Choosey game, would create a space where Beck doesn't have the emotional or mental energy remaining to seem present or excited about the things that Amber's talking about or to convey emotion to the camera. It feels like a non-apology, in my opinion. It sounds like Amber is saying, I'm sorry that Beck felt this way. I don't think like it's my space or anyone else that I know other than Beck to maybe ask for or accept that apology, but it does feel sort of odd that Amber would engage with these activities in a public space, meaning she posted them onto her YouTube channel, and then not apologize in a public forum. I'm honestly pretty new and don't know a lot of the lore, but as somebody who's entering right now and at a time where it seems like there is a lot of interpersonal conflict that's happening between Amber and exploring past relationships, a lot of this feels icky and like there is at least something problematic that happened here. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much for staying here. I am really excited to be able to explore more and get to know what in the world is happening in Coral World, and I hope that you stick around. Please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.